Level 1. You open your eyes to silence and too much light. A number lives on your phone like a heartbeat. 9 digits, then 10. A comma becomes a presence. You sit up. You are rich in a way that changes how doors open. You check your accounts. Digits swim. The world rearranges itself around this string of zeros. A thrill like electricity. A cold pinprick behind your ribs. What is immediate is practical. You lock your phone. You do not post. You breathe slow. You think of people who will not breathe as calmly. Family, old friends, former lovers, the ones who saw you when you had nothing. You have power now. Power is not just money. It is attention. It is expectation. It is a tide that will lift some boats and crush others. You stand. You decide you will not be a headline today. You will be deliberate. You leave the room. You test the weight of the world on your shoulders with one thought. What will you buy first? Level 2. You call one number. Not a friend. Not a lover. A professional. A lawyer whose name was already bookmarked for other reasons. You ask for secrecy. Legal language becomes your first shield. You sign non-disclosure electronically and feel the small, strange comfort of boxes ticked. Trust is now transactional. You set a safe room in your home. You hire a fixer who knows how to make the messy disappear. Background checks. Security audits. You learn the durable truth. Money attracts both moths and flames. You assemble a small team. A CFO who speaks in calm metrics. A wealth manager who smells of old money and new markets. A security chief who teaches you body awareness. They tell you about tax strategies, offshore structures, trusts, entities named like ships. You are offered a menu of permanence. You choose to anonymize some gains and anchor others. You draft wills like you draft weekends now, with intention. The first decisions you make are about shelter. Who gets to know? Who gets protection? You sleep better, but the list of people who can hurt you grows longer each day. Level 3. You walk into your new financial ecosystem. Assets are not just bank balances. They are buildings, brands, algorithms, satellites of influence. You inherit boards and options and companies that hum without your daily touch. You become the slowest moving hurricane in the room. Executives bow with spreadsheets. Founders smile like worshippers. You are offered a private jet as if courtesy were a side dish. You see how quick the world is to kind gestures for the size of your portfolio. You begin to see leverage everywhere. Real estate that prints cash. Tech that scales influence. Media that shapes perception. You buy a newsroom and watch narratives bend. You fund a biotech lab and hold the future in a petri dish. Every purchase is a lever. Every investment a potential echo across decades. You learn about concentration risk. One asset can topple you like a domino. Diversify becomes a mantra. You balance risk like a tightrope walker with a long pole of spreadsheets. You are both the patron and the subject. Control makes you precise. Freedom makes you experimental. Doubts arrive in the small hours. You ask yourself, who are you buying power for? For yourself, or for the version of you the world recognizes? Level 4. Power tastes like influence and responsibility. You can open doors for cities. You can close chapter houses. You can bankroll campaigns that rewire policy. Lobbyists smell opportunity. Politicians call with velvet voices. You learn the currency of access. A donation here, a grant there. You fund scholarships and a museum wing. You build reputational anchors to silence suspicion. But every philanthropic act comes with a mirror. Will you write checks to feel seen or to solve root problems? You test both. You seed a foundation to fight hunger. You spend nights in clinics and see that systems, not food, shape scarcity. You fund education but also demand measurable outcomes. Metrics start to feel like bones. Your influence ripples. Enemies crystallize. Competitors lease armies of lawyers. Old colleagues expect favors. Street voices praise and curse in equal measure. You discover the cost of decision. Decisions make enemies. And enemies make plans. You install cameras. You hire crisis PR. You buy silence with scholarships and buy away with settlements. But some things cannot be purchased. Trust, authenticity, a clean conscience. Level 5. Requests come in waves. A cousin who never answered texts wants help. A childhood neighbor proposes a business. A journalist asks for comment with suspicion sharpened. You are generous and terrifying at once. You learn to say no without flinching. Boundaries become your currency. You appoint gatekeepers. You define policy for gifts. You practice the script. I will consider it. You set limits on family loans. You insist on professional proposals. Heartstrings tug. The older you get, the more you realize wealth reveals people's maps. Some maps show stars. Some map every route to your front door. Scams arrive dressed as opportunity. You train your team to detect flattery as a weapon. And you begin to interrogate motives. Do they want you, or your balance sheet? You test generosity with conditions. You fund projects with oversight. You create a litmus test. Do they survive without you? If yes, you help. If no, you restructure. Every goodbye is expensive now. You lose friends who resent how you change. You find new ones who mirror your ambition. You discover loneliness in rooms full of people nodding. Level 6. Legacy interrupts impulse. What lasts after you spend or give away everything? You plan like an architect. Foundations, endowments, named shares. You seek permanence through institutions. You fund research that outlives headlines. You plant trees that will be forests in a lifetime. You invest in public goods and small businesses that scale communities. You meet with urban planners and ask blunt questions. How do we make neighborhoods that survive when you are gone? You restructure ownership so communities benefit long term. You back employee-owned models. You build systems that resist the single-point failure of a hero. You want to be remembered for what remained, not what disappeared. You teach heirs how to steward rather than squander. You draft charters that bind future stewards. You invite critics to your table. You open your ledger to audits. Transparency becomes a moral currency. You see wealth as a tool that amplifies existing structures. You can reinforce inequality or you can redistribute power. You choose the harder path. You choose to build scaffolding for more people to climb. Level 7. The final scene is not a bank balance. It is a choice. Will you be remembered as a benefactor or a symbol? You stand on a balcony. Below, a city breathes. You feel the wind of consequences. You think about love, vulnerability, the small mercies you ignored. You call the people you pushed away. Not to fix everything. To begin. You step into the narrative you are writing. You accept that mistakes will be catalogued. You accept litigation as part of living loudly. You accept that power will change you if you let it. And you commit to using your leverage to make room. To fund audacious experiments. To protect dissent. To create businesses that pay dignity as a dividend. You do not have to solve everything. But you can start with the things only you can do. You sign one agreement. A pledge to be accountable. You set up an independent counsel to critique your work. You laugh, softly. You are terrified and energized. The last beat is simple. You realize wealth is not an ending. It is a mirror and a tool. You hold it with both hands. You decide who you will become.